Hi everybody, my name's Amy from realeNglishConversations.com, and in this video I'm going to try to give you a little bit of a guide about when to focus on grammar, when it's important, when you should let it go, and some easy strategies that you can apply to your current level where you are right now. So this is just my opinion, and it's based on my experiences that I've had learning a language, and I hope that it can help you as well. I think when you're a beginner in the language, knowing a little bit of grammar and having some structure is really, really important. But one of the biggest problems that I see with a lot of the traditional classes where they teach any language in the world is that they focus on grammar and all of the details within a certain area. I can remember, for example, my first classes when I was learning Spanish. I think we spent 2 years trying to learn the present tense and all of the exceptions and a few other details that were core concepts and really important in Spanish grammar. But it was so much information, so specific, and we needed to perfect everything in order to advance. And looking back now, I can see that this is probably the worst way ever to teach grammar. What's more effective for a beginner who has no experience with the language, they've never seen the language being used, and more importantly, these rules that we're teaching them are confusing and overwhelming, and they have nothing to relate it to. A better approach is to teach the basic rules and maybe a couple of the most common exceptions, but the rest of it, just let it go for now and teach the student that they should have their eyes looking out for this sort of information. Oh, this is different than the rule. What's going on here? Because if you're seeing those things as you're learning the language, obviously it's common and it's important. And that's the right time to learn that exception. So really focusing on the general concepts, the most important concepts, and trying to teach as many of those as you can in a short period of time is really going to allow your student to get to that pre-intermediate level really quickly, where they can have exposure to real language and to start seeing these rules being used, which is actually key in getting to the next level of conversation. Just to address the people that haven't had this route in the way that they've learned grammar, I have a piece of advice about what you need to do now. So the opposite is what happened to me. I knew all of this information about grammar, all of the details for the present tense, the past tense, and the most common core concepts of the Spanish language. And when it came time for me to try to speak, it felt impossible because my brain was having to make so many choices and think about all those rules that I learned that I was scared of making errors. And more importantly, I knew I was making the errors because I had learned and memorized all these rules. At the end of the day, it's too much information. And really, there is no shortcut to thinking through these things, making mistakes over and over again, while your brain organizes the difference between information about the language and trying to use the language. So don't worry about it. If you have a lot of grammar information in your head and you feel like you know the language well, you can read it well, you can write it well, but your speaking is terrible, you have to start speaking. It doesn't get easier, you just need to go through it. And more importantly, don't worry about your errors. You know the right thing to do, but when you go to speak, it doesn't come out correctly. This is natural and it's part of the process. So just focus on speaking, be nice to yourself, don't worry about your errors. This is the most important thing you need to do right now. Moving on to the intermediate level. Let's pretend that you're at this point where you're speaking a bit, you can understand some stuff, but you still feel a little bit overwhelmed when you're exposed to real English. There are a lot of things that don't make sense, and some of the rules that you've learned, native speakers don't use them, or you're seeing these exceptions, and it's a lot of information to digest, and that's totally normal as well. The skill that you need to develop here is observation. You need to start observing the language with a lot of attention and detail. For example, instead of just reading an article and trying to understand the general idea, I want you to stop, look at the sentences, and really ask yourself, why is this sentence in this order? Do I understand everything about this sentence? And the tenses that are being used, the prepositions that are being used, all of the details related to the sentence. And if there's something that you don't understand, try to figure out why it's like that. Come up with a theory or a concept in your head and keep it in your mind. As you keep reading, you're going to see more examples of that thing that's difficult to understand. And little by little, your observation will start to make sense. You're going to see this situation being used here, here, and here, and you have this little theory about what's happening, and sooner or later, it's going to start making sense. And the truth is that these concepts that you're observing in this way are often things that you're never going to be taught in a textbook, in a grammar class. Maybe in the upper advanced levels, but really you don't need that much time. You don't need to spend money on these courses, but you really need to be good at observing things and learning things just based on what you see. This is going to be really helpful for you through the intermediate level. As you get to the advanced level, you're going to be speaking a lot easier now, and you're also going to be aware that the way that you're speaking isn't correct. And some of those rules that you learned a really long time ago when you were a beginner, all of the details that your teacher was trying to teach you at that time that were not the right time to learn because you didn't understand how it was used and why it was important. Now some of those rules are actually going to become important to you to really take your speaking to the next level and to speak well. There's a big difference though. When you review grammar rules as an advanced student, I promise you, it's way, way easier than it used to be. It's not this torture that you remember when you were a beginner. When you're an advanced level learner, it's more like, oh, I know oh, that's new. I forgot about that rule. And you can just put it in your mind and everything is fine. You're going to be able to apply it immediately to your speaking. And this is because you're going to have experience with the language. And as you're reading the rules, your brain says, yeah, I've seen that. Oh, I don't use that. That's important. I should try to maybe put a few examples in a list and review it later to keep it in my mind. So as you come to this advanced level, sometimes it's important to go back and review some of the basic rules or identify areas where you've had problems with grammar, where you just need to brush up on the rules and practice a little bit to fine-tune the grammar and ability to speak correctly. Of course, it can also be helpful to book a lesson with a teacher that can really point out the areas where you need to improve if you're not really sure where you need to improve. So those are my tips for how to handle grammar as a beginner, intermediate, and advanced learner. Of course, we all learn differently, and some people just really, really like knowing the rules, and that's fine, but there's a point with language where you need to just relax a little bit, observe how people use it, and try to mimic what you hear, because, the rules are there, but native speakers often break those rules or make mistakes, so don't worry about it too much. And if you liked this video, please subscribe to our channel, give us a thumbs up, and leave a comment below about which level you're at with English and if you find this advice to be helpful. I sure hope that it helped you. Don't forget to come to our website at realenglishconversations.com. We have lessons that are perfect for pre-intermediate all the way to upper advanced. If you're interested in improving your speaking and listening skills, we have a free membership. It takes 2 minutes to join, and we have some great lessons for you. So I'll see you guys next time. Take care.